This is Board of Selectmen's meeting, a special meeting, Tuesday, January 10th, 2023 at 5 o'clock in the Bradley Room at the Wolfeboro Library. We have any non-public? Jim?
We do not.
Okay. We have no minutes. Okay, we have a warrant article. Do we have the actual warrant article other than what I have?
So I'm gonna read it to you in just a moment.
Because I know there's been a change to it, so.
Yep. Okay, so the article reads, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $72,706 for the purpose of creating a new position within the Wolfeboro Police Department effective June 5th, 2023. During the regular school year, this position shall be assigned to the position of a school resource officer for the Kingswood complex. The remainder of the time outside the regular school year, this position shall be assigned as a Town of Wolfeboro Patrol Officer. The school district SAU 49 shall pay the Town of Wolfeboro 50% of payroll and benefits, which is $22,338 for this position, up to 73 school days, August 2023 through December 2023, as outlined below in the spreadsheet. This position shall be created only if both warrant articles, both the town warrant article and Article 7 from the school district pass. If both articles are successful, this position shall be fully funded in future years with SAU 49 paying half the payroll and benefits for up to 180 days as outlined above. Estimated tax rate impact for 2023, 2 cents per thousand of assessed valuation. And I believe this was discussed last evening with the school board, and you have their article in front of you.
Yep. Okay. Have some discussion. Anybody on the board? Brian?
So I did some research, and let's start with this. I'm not against safety, I'm not against school safety. 14 years I worked at the elementary school at Carpenter School. And both my children went through the high school over the last 10 years. What I want to make sure is that Wolfeboro doesn't lead the pack. We built a school that cost $20 million more than schools of comparable size. We spent a lot of money rebuilding our town hall. We have a very expensive library. We have a very expensive skating rink, and we're going to build a public safety building that's going to cost at least or more than comparable safety buildings built around us. Okay, this is all good. What I started doing was some research to find out how many resource officers there are per capita at other schools in Carroll County, around the Lakes region, and in the state. And by doing that, I found out that our enrollment at Kingswood for this year is 1,112 students, plus there's 400 from the Voc Center. So you would think that that would be 1,512 students, but that's not the case because most of the Voc students are registered as Kingswood Regional High School students. Therefore, even if I were kind and split it, we have 1,312 students in our middle and high school complex, and we're going to have 2.5 resource officers after this passing. So my question is, why do we have the highest number of resource officers per capita of any town that I can find in the state of New Hampshire? That's all I want to know. And if we have more incidences that happen in our school than other school districts, show me the numbers, I wanna see it, I'd like to see us apples to other school districts. An example would be if I tell you our electric rate is 14 cents a kilowatt, some people will go, okay. If I tell you our electric rate is 14 cents a kilowatt and New Hampshire Electric Co-op is 29 and Eversource is 33, now there's context to the numbers. You can see that one is different than the other. Again, I have no problem having resource officers to protect our kids. I feel badly for New Durham, Effingham, and Tuftonboro and Ossipee, who won't have a dedicated resource officer for their towns. And I think that they're entitled to the same protection for their children as we are. But I would need to see some information that shows that we do have a higher instance per capita, not per school, per capita, and that there's a good legitimate reason for us to have 2.5 resource officers for 1,300 students, which works out to, give me a second, works out to 1,300 divided by 2.5, I already did this at home. 520 students per resource officer in our, so that means that if Molten Borough has a resource officer, they have one for probably 600 students or something to that effect. Laconia has 2 resource officers for 2,000 students, so that's 1 per 1,000. Londonderry has 4 resource officers for 4,000 students, that's 1 per 1,000. Why is ours 1 for every 520? If we need it, fine, but I just need backup documentation to go forward.
Okay. Luke?
I'm going to respond to part of that, but I think you need to, I understand the numbers. However, you know, I'm not a law enforcement professional, but they stood there last night, including the SRO, and I think spoke to a lot of what we see in the schools now as opposed to 25 years ago when the chief was a new patrolman and I was a senior in high school. I think we've seen a lot of changes, especially in the middle school. And these are the professionals that are telling us that this is something they need in order to protect our students, our most vulnerable, and the people that teach them, that go to a school that is the gun-free school zone, that can't protect them. You need officers in the blue to protect those students and those teachers that are doing their job every day. They're telling us that they need them. That's all I need personally. Because one, the school district could be paying half of it, the towns could be paying half of it, all the other towns are chipping in to pay part of it, you know, and in that moment, you know, everyone complains, like, emergency management, okay, that's my background. Everyone says during a disaster, okay, oh, we should have been more prepared. But we don't put any money in emergency management, so that's why we're not prepared. So when something happens at a school, and you watch all these videos right after, the parents, how could this happen? Why did we do more? Why did we see this? It's because the presence, okay? And those SROs, they're running into gunfire while everybody else is running away. So it's...
Except in Texas.
It's something that I think it's a huge value.
Okay,
And
now, I would say this. There are experts at all the other districts in the state too. There are school boards, there are SAU districts, there are police officers that I would say are probably just as well qualified as our police officers. There are schools that I think do a fine job teaching their kids and protecting their kids. And again, I have no problem having an SRO officer. I just need documentation so that we know why we are going to have extra resource officers.
I think that's why you should have came last night, because the chief, you know, and in the chief's report every month, he outlines not only what the SRO does, but what the detective in Wolfeboro does. And you can see that rise over a period of time and say, this is where the trending is going, just like
And how is it compared to every other town? You're looking at one apple. I want to look at a bucket of apples, and I want to make sure that all the apples are ripe. Not that there's some rotten apples and there's some good apples. I wanna see the whole thing. I wanna see numbers. Again, let's go back to the kilowatts. 14 cents a kilowatt. Is that good? Doesn't mean anything to you unless you have it in context. You gotta have stuff in context. That's just the way it is.
Linda?
Yeah, I was at the school board meeting last night.
And I watched it.
And it was about an hour long, and there were many questions asked. I'm very comfortable with this. I felt I had a good understanding of the need after the hour-plus presentation. I would like to point out that there's a different number in the school district warrant article than in ours. The school district warrant article does for a full year, while ours does a half, and I want to make sure that we're clear with the people why those differences are there. And I think that's important, because we don't want people to get confused. When anybody's ready, I am comfortable making a motion to put the resource officer for the Kingswood Complex on the 2020 warrant, and then talk about whether we want to vote to recommend or not, based on whether the rest of us feel that we need Brian's.
I will second that.
Okay, I think that we need to give the chief a minute if he wishes to make any remarks in reference to it. I mean, I didn't go, so I don't know. I will just take for what other people were.
I want to reiterate again, I
Wait a
am
minute,
not
Brian,
against a school resource
Brian.
officer.
Please,
Thank you.
Dean.
Thank you. So, of course, it was a late night for me, so I'm very tired, so I'll try to keep this as brief as possible.
Good.
So, we created the SRO position in 2000, and Sergeant Chris Keaton was our very first SRO. And when I called him up yesterday and spoke to him and asked him a few questions, and I said, how many cases were you taking in on average those 5 years or so, 6 years that you were the SRO up there? And of course, remember that program was in its infancy at that time and was just starting out. So he said anywhere between 50 to 75 was a reasonable caseload for him that he remembers carrying. Now I will tell you that, first of all, Sergeant Keaton was now chief of police up in Bartlett, did a phenomenal job up there at the Kingswood complex, and I think Luke probably remembers him all too well as a very competent police officer. That's a heavy caseload for anybody. 50 to 75 cases is tremendously heavy, and those cases have to be investigated. I briefed last night to the school board that Mary, and help me out, Captain, Mary was running for the calendar year, January through
143.
Yeah, 143, January through December, 143, and Jason Boucher, Corporal Boucher, has just been up there since October. I put him up there in October as the cover down on both Crescent Lake and Carpenter School. He's picked up 26, so a total of 169 cases. So that's significant, right? That's a heavy caseload no matter how you look at it. And so in the 22 years that we've had an SRO present at the school, society's changed tremendously. I mean, I think we would be foolish not to think that things are going to stay the same forever, right? And the schools are nothing more than a microcosm of society that we live in. And the advent of technology oftentimes brings new challenges, especially to law enforcement, where we have all sorts of things that occur over the internet, cyberbullying and extortion cases and things, fraud and so forth and so on. These things have to be investigated, not chiefly of which is also something that we've been dealing with, is various types of pornography issues, child pornography included. These things are very troubling. These cases are very complex. So, getting back to Selectman Deshaies' comments, I can't talk about the logic of Conway or Moldenboro or any other town other than Wolfeboro. I don't compare us to any other town. I compare us to Wolfeboro. What's right for Wolfeboro? What are our crime dynamics like? What is our activity like? What are the needs of the citizens of Wolfeboro? And Luke said it, I think we have a very soft target at the Kingswood complex. And that's troubling to me. And that's the reason that I put a second part-time police officer up there, a very talented officer up there. And it's time that we put an SRO with principal duty on that complex at the middle school to deal with the increasing problems and some of the serious issues that we're starting to see. Luke is right. We have to be in a position to look forward, to look at the threat that's coming at us, and we need to prepare for that. In the military, I always prepared for two threats when facing the enemy: the most likely course of action and the most dangerous. All right, this is the most dangerous course of action. All right, we have to be in a position to protect lives and property, and that's the second part to this school resource officer that is most critically important, in my opinion, is that public safety aspect. Providing a safe and secure environment for the town and its citizens and the property is very, very important to me, and I'm very passionate about it. And I do hope you support this, and I hope I answered all your questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, Brad, you got a?
Yeah, just want to comment on something that Luke brought up, and I kind of had the same thought process here of the statement of presence is prevention. And I really strongly believe that, and this is really hard to quantify too, because some of these schools, as Brian pointed out, they might have one officer per 1,000 students. And in our area, New Hampshire, kind of talking about, is a fairly quiet state compared to other ones, and you might never have an issue with something like that coming into a school there with that kind of coverage there. But if you do have that one instance, then you're going to be second guessing yourself, forever after that. So I think this is a very good warrant article to have. I'm in support of it, and I really believe that just having the presence of the officers in the school will really deter a lot of things bad that could happen there and stuff, and they'd be there quicker to respond to at the same time if something did occur or more serious than what we've had so far anyway up there. So I am in support of this, and just want to go on record for that.
Okay.
May I briefly?
Yep.
Zachary, I was actually speaking to someone about that today, and when you go to the police academy, one of the first things they teach you is the first item in your tool belt, which is your omnipresence, right? Just the presence of the officer there is deterrent number one, just standing there in uniform, being present. That's super important. I don't have kids in the school system anymore, but when I drive by, I was also telling someone today that Carpenter School, and I see the crews out there, I just feel better about it. I feel better knowing they're there. I feel better for the people that are in there, both the students and the staff. And I do think it's super important. And when I look at the numbers that Selectman DeShay's talked about, I mean, we're really not far off. Coney, 4,000 kids for four RSOs. One that I would compare ourselves to, which is a regional school district, Amherst, which is Hollis, Amherst, Brookline. They have supposedly 1,284 kids. They have 2 SROs, so 1 per 600. So we're right in the mix. We're not all that far off. So I think it makes a lot of sense. And first and foremost, in a situation, God forbid, if anything like that ever happened, is we're trained, and I was trained with the FBI on school response. It becomes this big problem, and it comes right into becomes a time problem. That's all it is. It's just a time problem. How fast you can get to that point where that problem is, and 30 seconds matters, 45 seconds matters. And we're very fortunate here, right? We're in a district that can afford something like this. It's awful that other ones cannot, but the towns that you mentioned, their kids are here too. The Durham kids are here, the Ossipee children are here, of those taxpayers. So they are getting that benefit. And then when I looked at the costs, Chief and I, and I hate to put it in these terms, but you know, having the high school here and the middle school here, you know, it's certainly a blessing, you know, right? But it brings a lot of cost to us too as a town, that, you know, we bear the cost to prosecute these cases. So if, as we heard last night, that, you know, juvenile petitions, which are, you know, juvenile criminal complaints, we have more than, what was it, every other town?
Every other town in the county.
Yeah, so all of these kids are coming in from other towns in the district, and that's a cost that we bear ourselves, right? The town of Wolfeboro bears those costs ourselves. It's the school district doesn't pay for the officers, you know, to go over to these guys and testify in court over and over and over again. We bear those costs. So I think it's important that that's spread out. It makes sense to me, you know, it's common sense. And
A vast majority of those are originating from our SROs. Not every single one, but a vast majority.
yeah, versus the rest of the town. You know, and if you think about it, you know, Brian, you know, 1,600 kids, that's a town. That's most of the towns in this county are at 1,700 people. Right?
1,300.
Yeah, 1,300. So, yeah, I think in and of itself, that is a town. And from a public safety standpoint, the way the chief and Mark see it and how I see it, even though cost-wise it doesn't factor in, but Creston has to factor into our response on that, right? And how we prepare. They're so close in proximity to each other, you know, Creston to the middle school and to the high school. That falls into that. You
See,
know?
my problem is this, is that it doesn't matter what I necessarily think. I've gone and talked to 100 people in town, and I'm getting an even split from people saying, why do we need so many resource officers when other towns don't have them? Why are we ahead of the curve, and is it a good thing, is it a bad thing? So it doesn't necessarily, I mean, I'm all for safety, I'm all for the police department, I support the police and the fire department at every step. But when I have constituents, it's not like Luke might say what he thinks or what he feels. Other people might say what they think or feel. I can't do that. I have to do what the people in town, the taxpayers, come to me and voice, because I am their voice. It doesn't necessarily matter what I want. So when they come to me, I need to have backup information. I need to be able to say, this is a good financial decision and a good safety decision.
Yeah,
Because-
I agree 100%.
I think you just answered your own question.
Right. And that's why, you know, one of the
Well, I don't
reasons-
have the backup information. I
Well-
don't know how many instances they have at other high schools. I don't know, you know, are there other high schools that are gonna have the same per capita students per SRO officer? Don't have any information. Zero information. And I need information to make a decision for people.
You know, as public safety quote-unquote experts, right, we have more than the average person, right, more knowledge, all of us up here. And I don't think there's more of a democratic process, and it was our idea, let's put this on a warrant article, let's bring it before the people, let them decide on that. You know, we'll give them the information and let them vote on it. I think, you know, and if you think of it this way too, they don't have to just vote on this once, they're gonna vote on this twice, right? We need 2 votes in the affirmative, right? One on the school district warrant article, one on ours. So, you know, we think it's important enough to bring it forward and sign our names to it. And I'll take that to the end. It is the right thing to do, and it's super important, especially if anything happens, important. And there's a lot of unintended consequences that come with it, like helping out on the, you know, on the juvenile petition side and all that. But to me, it really comes down to having an extra body in the building that, God forbid, if anything ever happens, he or she can get there a minute faster or 2 minutes faster.
And again,
Just makes sense.
I'll say, I'm not against a school resource officer, and I'm not against safety. I just have to be able to explain it to the citizens of Wolfeboro. This is why we're doing it.
Yeah, I don't think we're far off. Like I said, we have the, you know, the research here, the other districts that we talked about, and the numbers are pretty close.
You know, the other thing, and I know Commissioner O'Brien wants to say something, but real quick, when we were in the building, looking for building locations and looking to determine whether we were gonna move or keep the police station at its current location, we heard loud and clear, why are you moving it from South Main Street? The school is right down the street. We feel comfortable with the building there because if there's ever an emergency at our schools, the police are right there. I heard the citizens loud and clear.
I spoke on that.
I heard the citizens loud and clear, right? So I think, and you know what, how can you fault that? You can't fault that. So, again, I think that's a very important point to keep in mind.
Bob?
Commissioner?
I'd just like to put in a couple of things. First of all, my entire law enforcement career was working with youth. I was the commander of the Juvenile Bureau in Montclair, New Jersey, which had a considerable crime problem and violence, along with gangs, drugs, and everything. So, having witnessed that, when I came here and have talked with my other fellow commissioners and also the chief and Captain Liddy, I emphasized that I wanted to have a safe school system, one that was prepared to handle anything that might happen, which is my background also in emergency management. When we started talking, the three commissioners, we saw that it was evident that we needed to make sure that we could do something of a positive nature to prevent something from happening that could be seen. And I'll tell you, you want to have someone in the school system who's talking with those students every day, who's gaining their trust of the staff and the students and the others around there and visitors. It makes everybody feel that they've got a way to communicate. And that goes to the mission of the police department, which is another thing we're doing, which is community policing. And that's the essence of it right there. The community are the police are the community. And that's something I believe in. And also, I have attended one active shooter incident at a high school, at a middle school in my town, 2 persons dead. So I have seen the ugly side of it. And it was preventable, and we did not have officers in the school. I would have been glad to at that time. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda?
Yeah, last night, it's not just to prevent something from happening, but our SRO, Officer Devine, talked about what she wanted to do to educate the middle school about this, which hasn't been there a long time. And there is the huge educational piece that comes with having those 2 officers. And, you know, she talked wonderfully about all the kids that come in and how she relates to them. We're very lucky to have an officer like that in the school system. And so this is not just, you know, safety. It is also the education and the development of our kids and knowing about what you do with the phone. And I was very impressed with her and what she talked about last night.
Building those avenues of trust is so critically important, and this is how we ensure that our children stay safe. You're absolutely correct. There's really 2 pieces to this, right? When we look at when you look at SROs and school systems today, right? If it's being done correctly, as Commissioner O'Brien pointed out, with the under the guise of community policing, which is what I call responsible policing. It's the only way to really do it, right? You've got what you just described. You've got the compassionate relationship building, the building of trust. And then you've got the other piece, right? The piece to counter the active shooter or the threat that's coming down. And those 2 pieces seem to be diametrically opposed to one another, but they're all part and parcel of the same animal, right? And the same function. And so there are 2 very critically important pieces here. And it is absolutely critical to providing a safe and secure environment. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have, Linda had made a motion to move this forward, or at least approve the warrant article.
No, I made the motion to place it on the warrant as a resource officer for the Kingswood Complex on the 2023 warrant, and Brian, you know, seconded it.
Okay.
That's the motion I put out.
All right. I think we've gone through enough with back and forth. Okay, all those in favor of placing this on the warrant, say yes? Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. 5-0? Okay.
Can I ask for a clarification? So it used to be called School Resource Officer Middle School.
The reason I used the complex is because that mirrors what's on the
Right.
SO.
So you're making that change? that's
I'm
all
making that change so
Yeah.
that we're putting the same title on both warrants.
She said there was
Yes.
a change in what she had
Okay.
read.
Just taking that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good.
Good motion to recommend this? If so, I'll make that motion, or do we have more discussion to do first?
We don't have any more discussion.
No, we're not, okay. I'll make a motion to recommend this then.
Second.
And I guess there is the discussion, Brian asked whether we had enough information from the police. I feel like I do.
I do.
But Brian, I don't think you do. Are you comfortable going through?
I have no problem having a resource officer. I would feel much better having more backup information so that when people come to me and say, why do we go from one resource officer to 1.5 to 2.5, I can explain it to them, other than saying, they tell me it's safer.
So,
Well,
I know you gave us some of that information. Maybe you can just write some little thing for us, and you've got some of the statistics.
Why don't you just send them to me?
Okay.
All right,
I'll send a
we'll do it that way.
request for, I'll send a request for information
Ian.
to you.
Or just send the citizen to me?
Yeah.
Citizen, 50? You want, I can send
Sure.
50 if you want
I
me to.
will talk to everybody.
But, it would be nice
Okay.
to have information.
we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
4 and 1 abstention. Okay. Moving right along. What else do we have? Jim, anything?
I'm just gonna brief you on petition warrant articles.
Okay.
So, looks like we're gonna have 6 of them. $50,000 for a playground,
Yeah.
$81,000 for Clark Park. This one came in today, $10,700 for external landscaping at the IGA. It's in your box, it came in today. Fourth one is to create a Parks and Rec Commission, which you have. And then this one came in today, reaffirmation of the First Amendment, and that's in your box. And we also received one regarding the town accepting the bike trails as laid out by Single Track, and that's in your box as well. So those are the 6 petition warrant articles that we have on top of our regular 28, 36, I don't even remember at this point.
What was your third one again, Jim?
Third one is
Bike
external
trail.
landscaping, $10,700 in front of the IGA, and again, that's in your box. So,
Okay.
Well, it's it's in front of the IGA, and isn't it down by the train station too, and
yeah,
some
I
other
can't
places?
remember, Brian, it was awfully wordy, so.
Do we have to have any discussion on the petition warrant article from the Single Track Alliance? Because we're accepting $300,000 in donations?
I mean, I guess it's up to you guys if you want to have a discussion relative to it. I mean, you really can't do anything with a petition. A petition goes on
Yep.
as written, and you
written.
don't recommend or not recommend.
Even if they're money warrant articles, you got that out of the?
Yes, we got that out of Nathan, correct,
Okay.
Casey?
That
They
is
do
correct.
not.
Would you like me to read it?
Yes,
Yeah.
if you would.
So Jim says, does the BOS take action vote on supporting or not supporting petition warrant articles? The lawyer said, I think the BOS should not take a position on the petition warrant articles. If a member wanted to suggest an amendment to the petition warrant articles at the deliberative session, he or she could do so as long as the amendment pertained to the same subject matter.
Right.
And just as an aside, does the budget committee, second question, take action, vote on supporting or not supporting petition? If the petition articles involve an appropriation of funds, then the budget committee should take a position on whether it supports them or not.
Again, because I'm speaking on behalf of citizens who approached me, and they're a little concerned because there are 4 different MOUs right now out floating around, from the Single Track Alliance to the Lakes Region Conservation Trust, from the Wolfeboro Cross Country Skiing to Lakes Region Conservation Trust, from the Wolfeboro Pathways Committee to the Single Track Alliance, and who's the 4th one? And from the Wolfeboro Cross Country Ski Association to the town of Wolfeboro. So we have 4 MOUs that are out there right now. And the people that approached me, and there was more than one, said that the stone dust trails at Abenaki and at Sewell Woods were supposed to be repaired on a regular basis by the Single Track Alliance with $42,000 that was given to the Single Track from the Wolfeboro Trails Committee. Now, that is two private organizations determining that they're gonna take care of trails that are both on Lakes Region Conservation Trust land and also on Wolfeboro Town land. So how do two private organizations determine that they're going to maintain town property with $42,000 of donated money from wherever? So it becomes problematic. And then we're gonna be going into another MOU, a license agreement with the Single Track Alliance. So we have what I consider some kind of muddy waters that need to be straightened out. I would like to see, and I've asked now for a long time from the Single Track Alliance, I would like to see a copy of the MOU they have with the Lakes Region Conservation Trust, so we can use it as a template going forward with our MOU with them. And I would like to see a copy of the MOU that the Wolfeboro Cross Country Association has with the town of Wolfeboro. And I'm trying to get people to supply that to me. And I'd like to see an accounting to see if that $42,000 has been used or spent where it should be spent to maintain town property. Makes sense.
I'm wondering whether we shouldn't, at the next Board of Selectmen's meeting, talk about the petition warrant articles. I have one in the concern about the one that wants to establish a recreation commission. In 1972, the town went to a town manager form of government. It disbanded its water and sewer commission, its electric commission, its park and recreation commission. And I think, we may want to do some discussion about that. Because it seems like if you read the statute, even though this says that the Board of Selectmen can designate whether they give them the powers, there's a lot of powers that this commission gives, and I think I'd like to have all of us kind of talk about that one at least, but we probably should
So
just read
would
the-
you like me to see if I can schedule a workshop maybe instead of a selectmen's meeting with legal counsel present?
Well, that would be good.
Sure.
That would be,
That would be even
yeah,
better.
yeah,
Let me see what I can work out.
perfect.
Okay.
Can
All
I
right.
ask one more technical question? So, I think, as it stands right now, tonight's the last night the Board of Budget Committee, tomorrow night is the public hearing, and that's the last night they're going to meet. So you almost have to push these 6 to them, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay,
petition warrant
Yeah.
articles go on
I'm just
regardless.
making
Yeah,
sure that-
yeah. They go on
They go on
regardless, we
to
don't
them.
have anything to do with
No,
that.
I understand, I'm just asking out loud so everybody is on the same page.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, is there any other business for tonight?
Do we need a motion to move those to the budget committee, or they'll just naturally move?
I think it's by
Naturally-
statute, they're
It
required.
naturally goes there.
Yeah, we can't disrupt them or push them.
Somebody want to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.